So I'm about 29 years young, and I figured out by now that being alone for me is the best case scenario. Now, when I say alone, I'm not meaning lonely or being a loner as if I don't need to be interacting with nobody, or living my life as if I just hate people or I'm antisocial. That's not the case at all. You know, I have a limited battery life when it comes to social interactions. I tolerate less BS from folks. You know, when you're younger, in your teen years, early 20s, and when you're a child, you're going to tolerate anything. You're going to tolerate just about a whole bunch of nonsense and BS from different people. You're going to put up with other people's mess. Okay, that's just how it goes, right? And I've been in social circles, been around folks enough and family members to see their mess and tolerate their bullshit. And it gets to a point where you're not going to really get anywhere with certain people. Like, you're not going to get to a point where, you know, you're on the same level or the same page as that individual. Like, this person is just going to be stuck in their mess, right? And you got your own mess. You got your own stuff to worry about. You got your own baggage, right? You'll tolerate people for a certain period. You know, other people are different. They're going to tolerate just about anything from everybody. You know, because they don't want to be alone. They don't want to have that time where they can face themselves and they can deal with their own baggage. They can deal with their own mess, right? And it takes a lot as an individual to deal with yourself. When you got your own issues, and when you stop trying to deal with other people's issues, you can finally come to come to a better understanding of where you're at in life and where do you stand and what's going on with you. Because I've had many periods where no one really cared about what was going on with me, right? And being alone, which I do prefer at this time, you know, I'm more in solitude with God more than anything, right? I have my itches where, yeah, I want to socially interact. You know, I would call myself a seasonal social butterfly, you know? But for me, it's like these past few years, I have not been able to really establish any friendships, okay? I would say ever since 2023, I've had probably more of a difficult time connecting with people, you know, and just finding a strong base on a support group or a friend group, whatever the case is, right? But I look back into my previous experiences where I've had my homies, I've had my social groups, and then I would remember and certain experiences will come back to me dealing with certain people where it's like, okay, I hang out with this group of friends and this bullshit happens. You know, certain circumstances take place that's negative, that's not good, that's not healthy. And it only happened because I was around that person or that individual, or I spent too much time with this person, so that's why that happened to me, right? Or this certain thing happened around us, right? Or related to me. You know, just certain circumstances, negative circumstances, unfavorable circumstances that take place And you notice this after a while of being alone. You don't notice it as when you're hanging out with the person, when you're spending more time with the person. You don't really see it until after a while. It becomes clear to you. And it became pretty clear to me that the more time I spent with this individual, these things start to happen. These bad things start taking place. Certain things are going wrong in my life. I'm not contributing to that actual person, but sometimes it could be due to the energy or the spirits that come with dealing with that person. You know, you always got to take that into consideration as well. But it's also your fault for hanging out with that person. You know, now of course, if you don't know any better at the time, like in my case, I didn't know any better. I couldn't get a good read on people when I was 13 years old. You know, I didn't have that type of that intuition. My intuition wasn't strengthened, or it wasn't sharpened enough at that age. You know, when you're a kid, you just tolerate anybody. When you're a teenager, you hang out with just about anybody. You don't care. You just want to have friends. You just want to fit in. You just want to belong. You want to have that sense of togetherness with people, and that's perfectly normal. As human beings, it's in our nature to be with people, to be in unison with people, to be together, to have friendships, relationships. But when you get older, it's important for you to pick the right relationships. It's important for you to, you know, make sure you're around the right people, okay? Just because you're feeling lonely and you need friends, that don't mean you got to pick the wrong type of people, okay? That don't mean you pick the wrong friends, or you just tolerate any negativity. You don't just tolerate anyone's mess. You got to have standards. You got to have boundaries. You got to set them, all right? But in the beginning, when you're just learning this stuff, you learn more about people, you're not going to have boundaries at first. You're not going to have standards when you're a teenager or you're in your early 20s. Like, you learn that a lot of people come with their own mess. They come with their own baggage. And if you're someone that is an empath, you're someone that shows sympathy, you're going to deal with people and their mess sometimes, right? One thing about me, and I'm learning this as I go along in my own walk, is that I'm not going to be friends with someone based off trauma bonding, right? I'm not going to be friends with somebody based off our own respective traumas that we endured in our own life, because I look at that as unhealthy. That could be a potentially unhealthy friendship to be in, right? And I felt that this certain friend I had, I felt that was the direction that the friendship was going in, right? Just us talking about our own trauma, bad stuff that happened to us when we were younger, or, you know, and it's not good to have that foundation, you know, for a friendship, or even just for a relationship. You don't want to trauma bond with people, man. Like, moral of the story, you don't want to trauma bond with people. And I'm at that point in my life where I ain't looking to trauma bond with nobody, you know. I don't relate to a lot of people these days. I just don't, you know. And I think for me, I dealt with too much, like, disloyalty, backstabbing, you know, fakeness, lack of support, fake love, you know. I don't mind being alone, because I realize and I recognize not a lot of bad shit happens to me when I'm alone. Yeah, I go through stuff here and there when I'm alone. That's normal, though. But at least I have myself to deal with it. You know, like if I get into trouble, I only have myself to blame for why I got in trouble. I can only hold myself accountable. I don't have to worry about holding other people accountable. I don't have to worry about getting in trouble because someone else was involved in the act or the crime, right? I don't have to worry about that stuff. When I'm alone, if I get into trouble, it's because of me. It's because of what I did. I'm not paying for someone else's own mess. I'm not paying for someone else's own crime on what they did. I'm not in a situation where, I'm guilty by association. I'm not in that situation to where, regardless if I did it or not, just by me being around this person, I'm guilty. Just by being around this individual or these group of friends, I'm already seen as the guilty one, right? I'll still take the hit no matter what, And when you've been through those situations, you get around certain people and anywhere they go, they just bring trouble. Trouble follows them. And if you hang around those individuals, then trouble's also going to follow you, right? Drama, gossip, that's going to be at your doorstep too, because you hang around people and all they do is gossip and talk drama all day. They wear that all day long, okay? You become the type of person that, you hang out with, right? Like you become that type of person that you always hang out with and you always interact with. Like who your friends are and what they do, that's what you're going to do. And who your friends are, that's who you're going to be. I forget how the saying goes. That it's not in my mind right now. I know how it goes. I know how it's said, but it's not in my mind right now. I'm kind of, just coming from work, a little bit tired and shit. So you guys excuse me for that. But yeah, like I just came to that realization that being alone for me is the best case scenario. And it's like I don't get a lot of bad stuff happening to me like that. It's like I've only noticed bad stuff would happen because of the people I was hanging out with. People can carry bad energy, negative energy everywhere they go. And you hanging around that person, not really knowing that they carry bad energy and negative energy, that's going to rub off on you too. But you have to socialize with people to understand that. You got to have relationships long enough to understand that. If you're around the wrong type of people, it's up to you whether or not if you want to deal with them. If you have enough tolerance in you to deal with their crap, like you'll recognize that a lot of people come with their own baggage, but it's not up to you. At the end of the day, you can help people through their stuff. Like you can give them advice and whatnot. You can be a supporting hand in their life, or give them words of affirmation. But you can't cure their mess. You can't help them just like overcome it or get through it. At the end of the day, they got to do the work themselves. It's up to them, their responsibility to get right in their own life. Just like it's your responsibility to get through your own mess, to get your life in order. to make sure you're doing what you got to do every single day. You know, we're not in a time when, you know, where we're babysitting people. We're just not. We can look out for one another, and, you know, if we need anything, but in certain sections and where you live at, in certain areas where you live at, you may not have that community where people are looking out for one another. You know, I know for me, I don't live in that type of environment where everyone's looking out for one another, you know, because I've seen the worst of people, you know, and I've seen some good in people, but I think I've seen too much negativity more than positive, right, in dealing with people, you know. Of course, when I come to interact with people, I don't come with this mindset that, oh, this person's going to be this way, and this person's going to be an asshole, this person's going to be like this, and the energy is going to be weird. Like, I don't come in with that mindset. I don't come in or with that attitude. Like, I don't really expect anything. Like, it's like I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, you know. And if this person shows me who they are, then they're gonna tell me who they are by, you know, what they say, what they do. And I just gotta decide whether or not, if I want to label them as a friend or look at them as someone that I can hang out with, or someone that I can talk to about certain things, right? Like, it's up to me to make that decision, but I don't ever come into interaction with somebody and expect the worst, you know. I'm a very optimistic person. Like, I'll come in with a whole bunch of optimism and, you know, and see how it goes. A lot of people just talk themselves out of not dealing with somebody because of their past experience. Like, yeah, I might get like that too sometimes, but at the end of the day, you can't really know for sure until you actually interacted with that person in real time. So, you know, but for me, being alone is like, I find myself being more at peace, having more tranquility, and just, you know, I don't really crave a whole bunch of company. I don't crave a whole bunch of interaction like that, you know. So for me, and probably for you as well, you enjoy your time, you know, being alone, you know, for whatever reason you have, you know, to kind of be solo for a while. But, you know, I think it's important to be solo, to really understand yourself better, and to get a better grip on your life, because you don't want to be someone that runs to everybody. Anytime you run into a problem or issue with yourself, it's like you don't want to keep running to people. Like, I'm someone that does not run to people when things go wrong. Like, I'm not easily like running on over for a safety net. Like, I'm not searching for a safety net, you know. I usually don't have that safety net in people, you know. Like, I've been used to dealing with my own mess myself, and I've grown to do that, right? I've grown to figure some things out myself and just do for me, you know. But as a man, it's like you can't be running to everybody when things go south, you know. So it's like I'm just at a point where I'm not looking to deal with no one's baggage, and I'm not looking to babysit nobody. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you're gonna come to me, you better come correct. That's all I gotta say. You know, Like, I'll give people chances, you know, and it's like, and even like if I'm tripping, if I'm in the wrong, I expect someone to check me, okay? And if I fuck up a couple times, I expect you to cut me off, you know, if that's the type of person you are, and you're not going to tolerate my mess either, you know? Like, it goes both ways. Like, if I'm tripping, I don't expect you to deal with me. After a certain period of time, I expect you to just like, all right, I'm done dealing with this guy, you know, he tripping, you know? Because we all have our limits, okay? And there's certain lines that you just can't cross when it comes to me, because those lines have been crossed before, and I've learned to like put limits now on certain things that you just cannot cross, you know? So that being said, this is Solo Dolo Talks. Hopefully this type of talk, you know, brought some clarity to your own life, and, you know, gave you something to you know, kind of think about and stuff. So make sure y'all like the video, subscribe for more content, transparent content, and share this video. And let me know your thoughts down below, what you think. So that being said, I'm out, and salute, and peace.